All right, this is the third time I'm trying to record this. I'm super rusty with recording videos. As you guys probably know, it's been a while since I've recorded, especially for Red versus Blue, but I am back. What's up, everybody? How's it going? Murder of Birds here. Welcome back to the channel. We are finally picking up, getting back on the horse, and continuing on with Red versus Blue content for Season 12. Officially finishing off Season 12 with this review/discussion before we jump in to the final act of the Chorus trilogy with Season 13, seeing how the whole Chorus war with the Federalists and the New Republic, of course, coming together after the ridiculousness that was the Season 12 finale of, you know, basically Felix ruining the joint for control for Charon Industries, for Malcolm Hargrove, and kind of putting, Locus in that situation of like, fuck off. Now we have to have a third plan, which is going to war with these people instead of just being able to do what we've been doing for so long now. And I'm going to be here to talk about my thoughts and everything else in between. It has been a long time, but as per usual, we are going to be getting into the usual with homework. This is a brand new notebook that I had to get because I kind of like scrapped the other one. I think I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages, and we're going to kind of break it down. And it's been so bad in terms of me getting back into Red versus Blue. I've since rewatched Season 12 from start to finish, which is what I did when I took these notes, but it was so bad, I've been so out of the loop that I actually had to pull out this dinosaur, right? The OG, the purple notebook at that, my Seasons 8 through 10 notes for Project Freelancer, because I completely forgot how I normally structured my thought points between episodes and like how I structured my overall review points. It's been so long, so I actually had to use this book as I had to use my old notebook notes as a reference for my current notebook notes. That's how bad it's been. That's how out of the loop I've been. But of course, addressing the elephant in the room, of course, it's been a long time. It's a little later than I initially said that I'd get back to Red versus Blue videos. I have a haircut, by the way. You probably already noticed that, but yeah, cut my hair. It was like 18 months since I'd gotten my last haircut, prior to COVID, actually. So like I hadn't gotten my haircut since February of 2020. So I felt like I was overdue. I do plan on growing it properly this time around. So, you're probably going to have to get used to it depending on when the last time you watched a video of mine was, if not my Twitch streams. But yeah, I definitely want to get back on track with recording videos, recording consistently, being productive, and not being in the rut that I've been in for the last few months now. It's never a problem for me of like feeling like RVB isn't worth continuing to watch. Of course, I feel like as I go on, based on, what I hear through the grapevine, the show might change and, the show might switch between hands, but I always want to be optimistic about jumping back into Red versus Blue, picking up where I last left off, being as enthusiastic and, just overall excited about, the journey of the Reds and Blues and where it's going to take us next and everything like that. And obviously, it's been a consistent problem with me, and I did address it in the community post that I last posted, as well as the reaction to the finale of Season 12 that I put in the pinned comment, and a lot of people saw that. A lot of people appreciated my honesty, and I'm coming back a little later than I initially said. Again, these things just happen, but I am genuinely like putting my foot down and trying to be very disciplined and stick to a plan and have a thought in my mind of like, I have to get these videos done. I have an audience that looks forward to these videos. And I don't want to just be like a one-trick pony, just only streaming and doing Ruby content. I'm doing other things behind the scenes that I hope can kind of come out in a periodic manner. But first and foremost, obviously, I want to address that because I always hate feeling like I have to come back and pretend like I haven't been gone for a really long time, which I clearly have. But for those of you who have been enjoying Red versus Blue, for those of you who have gone back and rewatched my earlier reactions in anticipation for Season 13, especially since I tweeted out a couple of days ago that, I have my own thought process for Felix and Locus as characters that we're going to be getting into for today. Also, welcome back to the Rambles. Expect them in full, in troves. This is, I'm the same person regardless of how long I've been gone. But yeah, we have a lot of stuff to talk about. We have episodes 17, 18, and 19 being multiple choice. Fed versus New, which is like a pun. Not a pun, but it's like a reference to like Red versus Blue, Fed versus New. So I like that. And the finale chapter, episode 19, You Know Who You Are. So I'm going to be breaking these down based on the batch that I previously watched. So we're going to talk about episodes 17, 18, and 19, my overall thoughts of each episode individually, and then I'll probably do a light overview of the season as a whole, because I feel like if you want to know my thoughts of season 12, I generally have an afterthoughts portion following all of my reactions, which I feel like most people don't watch, because a lot of people were surprised that I called Malcolm Hargrove before, you know, he was even revealed in the finale of season 12, and it's like, well, all the people that are like, how did he figure it out? You kind of outed yourself of like, you clearly only watched the reactions, and I get it. There are some people that watch it all in one sitting. There are some people that watch my videos in chunks throughout the week, so that way they, you know, they want to be invested, they want to hear my thoughts in full, and I appreciate it. And I know that there's some people that only care about their reaction, my reaction, and like that vicarious experience of experiencing it for the first time through me. I just wish that some people who had those questions kind of did their due diligence, because it's like, I hate explaining I hate giving the same answer over and over to people when, you know, it's very clear how I've come to the conclusions that I've come to over the course of the show. But anyways, overall, I just want to say thank you guys all so much for the support, for being very patient with me. I know there are some people that have been frustrated over the process of me not being around and not being consistent, and I completely understand that. It really kind of falls on me and my word and my actions and being consistent with both of those. And I just hope that moving forward, you guys are still excited, still eager, still looking forward to whether it be Red versus Blue content, Ruby content, anime content, which I'm in the works of doing right now, Twitch streaming, gaming, and everything else in between. So with all that said, very excited. I have another notebook with a bunch of notes, so Lord knows how long this video is going to be. But we're going to start off with Chapter 17, Multiple Choice. And as I usually do, I'm probably going to heavily edit this based on putting like, you know, either screenshots or putting in clips to kind of reinforce what I'm saying. It's the same old rigmarole, same old song and dance, same format that you guys know and love. So I hope you guys look forward to it. So we're going to get into episode 17. But before we get into anything, because I don't even want to drag this to the end, what the fuck happened to Doc? This guy got like, I think he got like future cubed in season 11. And then he didn't show back up for the rest of that season. He's MIA this entire season. I hope we see him in the next season. Like, the trilogy conclude. I just feel bad for Doc. Like, he always just kind of gets left off to his own devices, whether it was, whether it was in Valhalla or whether it was in Blood Gulch, you know, his whole deal with O'Malley, the aftermath of everything that happened in season, with the Project Freelancer and everything like that. It's always kind of, you're always just wondering, where's Doc? What's Doc up to? And in this case, I'm kind of like, something grave happened to him, and we're kind of like left off on a cliffhanger for him for this entire season. So I literally put at the very top here, Doc question mark, question mark, question mark, because I have no fucking clue what happened to him, if they're gonna make sense of it all. It's future cube related, so for all we know, he's on another planet, but we'll have to wait and see. So for episode 17, I dubbed this episode Fight or Flight, mainly for the multiple choices, right? It's the name of the episode. I think it's a reference to the multiple choices that the Reds and Blues had in terms of taking Felix and Locus up on the offer to get off the planet, to let Control get what they want, let the mercenaries get their payout, let the Reds and Blues get away with their lives, and unfortunately let the people of Chorus die. So this was such a powerful episode for me. One scene in particular was my absolute favorite, and I'm going to showcase that in a minute here, but it's mainly based on the weight and the gravity of everything that the Reds and Blues have gone through. And I mentioned it right here. Every single scenario that has happened in the course of this show, the odds of the Reds and Blues making it out alive has always been slim to none. I mentioned it here. The entire conflict with Omega and O'Malley, the aliens, you know, during, I think, seasons, like, I think it was, like, what, season 6 or whatever, like, with Junior and the aliens and all that stuff, the entire conflict with Gary and Wyoming, the meta, Project Freelancer with, like, Washington and the director, and even now with the mercenaries and Control. I feel like every instance that the Reds and Blues have found themselves in, I've always said to myself, damn, like, how are they going to get out of this? How are they going to... You know what I mean? Like, they're in a situation that's bigger than them. But it feels like over the course of the show, they've always risen to the occasion, to where now I kind of feel like I feel more confident in the Reds and Blues than ever. And maybe it's based solely on happenstance. But the fact that, like, you know, even these multiple choices in general, like, I really didn't know what was going to happen. So, like, the first option was, like, they lose the planet, they teleport to a different area, gather intel, gather equipment, get off the planet. Because, like, the main issue now, even with the finale, is that, like, yes, the Reds and Blues are the only ones that know about Malcolm Hargrove, about the mercenaries, right, and the space pirates. And the people of Chorus know, too. But this planet is segregated from the rest of the galaxy. They're at the edge of the galaxy. They have very little, very little surveillance, very little eyes on them. And I think that's a big reason why Malcolm Hargrove wants this planet, because it's kind of like he gets to slip by any protocol or any procedures. And I'll fucking talk about that because he's a big ass hypocrite for that. And that really pissed me off. But like, you know, the first option was let Chorus fall, but we have a chance of bringing Project Freelancer to justice. The second option was we take their offer, we go home, we tell people that we got out of there before people started killing each other, but that weighs too heavily on their conscience. Based on the first choice, which is like the people of Chorus die, and the second option of the people of Chorus still die. Washington presented a fourth option of like Team Project Freelancer with Wash, Carolina, and Epsilon, and they try to take down control while the Reds and Blues get out alive. So it's like a noble sacrifice, sure, but like I feel like, again, we're all in this together. Surprisingly, they ended up going through with option 3, which was a very big if on Epsilon's part.
If, and let me tell you, I cannot stress this if hard enough, if Locus and Felix are telling the truth, we go back to the canyon, get on the ship, go home. If anybody asks, we tell them we stole the ride before all the crazy army people showed up and started murdering each other.
Gotta be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of the if, and the thousands of deaths aren't great either.
What about option C? Teleport to the radio chamber. If we take out their defenses and shut down the machine, and if we're not too late, then we can broadcast a message to the Capitol. But we could save everyone at the Capitol. Yeah, if we make it back in time. Then you just need to find a way to convince two armies that a bunch of dead people are actually alive and telling the truth.
And so, like I said, this episode had a lot of weight and a lot of gravitas to it because you didn't know, like, they're going in for war now. So it's like they might have dodged a bullet right now, like by the end of this batch. But like the real fight is going to be sticking to your guns. It's going to be siding with the people of Chorus. It's going to be trying to take down the space pirates, take down, Felix and Locus, take down Control, take down Malcolm Hargrove, bring him to justice, and make it out with the skin of your teeth. And I don't know, there was one scene in particular, it's definitely my favorite scene of the episode. I think I liked it mostly for like the subtlety of its emotions. I understand that Rooster Teeth has been doing like the machinimation, you know, moving around with the controller, conveying, you know, movement and talking and gestures and, you know, body language and stuff like that. But there was one scene where it said so much with no dialogue. All there was music and body language, and I loved it.
Carolina and I go on the run with Epsilon and do our best to bring down Control. And the rest of you take the ship and go home.
That's actually not a bad idea.
But we can't just leave.
Yes, you can. This isn't your responsibility. You all held up your end of the bargain. You helped us fight. You saved your friends. So now all that's left is for you to go home.
And it kind of gets led into by Emily Gray's speech of like, you know, the Reds and Blues held up their end of the bargain. They helped the people of Chorus fight, and now it's time for them to take that fight to the true villain and to like group up and ally together against this common threat that's been trying to tear them apart for God knows how long. So again, that was the big like first half of episode 17, was coming to the conclusion of what we're gonna do, what options we have, how the outcomes for any of those are going to happen, and what's gonna, you know, what we're gonna actually end up doing. And I love that one moment of Tucker, like the scene just like panning out for Tucker or like zooming in on Tucker, and it's like, this kid has been the main character of the Chorus trilogy. Like, I don't think anyone can really dispute that. Like, he's grown so much from the person that he was in Blood Gulch. He's grown so much from the person that he was in Valhalla, you know, with Junior, or, you know, everything that they've been through, whether it was O'Malley, you know, the Meta, Project Freelancer, and even now, like, after season 11, where, you know, Wash was trying to instill a lot of wisdom into him, and, you know, he had a bit of bickering back and forth with Church over the years, and now he's in the driver's seat of making those calls, learning from those mistakes, making mistakes himself, and just trying to do the very best he can. And I think Tucker, like, I wish every season had a moment like that for every character, because I think Washington got that, I think Church got that, I think Tucker got that, but again, I feel like, I don't, like, will Donut ever get that? Will Griff or Simmons ever get something like that? I feel like, you know, and again, I just mentioned Washington, Church, and Tucker have gotten a lot of, like, substantial seasonal development, and they're always a part of Blue Team. So, I don't know. I feel like the Red Team always gets, you know, shafted here and there when it comes to significant character development. It's not to say that any of these characters are inconsistent, because they're not. I just think when it comes to, like, when you think of a season, it's like, whose season was this? Was it Washington's season? Was it Tucker's season? And there's not really much, like, this is definitely Tucker's trilogy. Fuck the season, it's Tucker's trilogy, and I really want to know how he's going to rise even more to the occasion of being the character in the spotlight for the, you know, for the season, you know, for the trilogy finale of season 13. So, I don't know, I just really liked that. I love how Tucker has really grown as an independent, how they've put a lot of the spotlight on him, because for the most part, it's always been Church in the spotlight. It's been Church, it's been Epsilon, it's been Texas, for the most part. You know, Washington got his time to shine here and there between, between being with the Reds and Blues and getting the past instances of Project Freelancer, so that makes sense. But yeah, I just really, really loved the direction that they took Tucker, and I hope other characters can get that in the future. Besides all that, obviously, the Federalists of Chorus and the New Republic of Chorus meet in the capital city. They kind of, you know, are at a head with each other. They're kind of like, oh my god, what the hell do we do? And that's where the standoff is for episode 17. I did pick up on the Star Wars reference. It's a trap! It's a trap. Like, I've never watched Star Wars, don't come for me. Like, I grew up on video games and anime and cartoons. I never really grew up on, like, comic books or movies or anything like that. And I know that's, like, a big proponent of a lot of people's childhood, is, like, watching the Star Wars movies, reading the comic books, buying the toys and stuff. Like, same thing with Marvel and DC. That wasn't my part of, like, nerd culture growing up. I was into Pokemon and Digimon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon and Disney Channel and stuff like that. Like, that was my life. And then video games was always a major part of my life ever since I started playing them. Like, I was actually playing video games before I was watching cartoons, believe it or not. So yeah, like, I picked up on the Star Wars reference. That was really cool. Another thing that I really liked is the reveal of Bitter's full name, Antoine Bitters.
So how is it you can fix cars when you can't even drive them?
I'm sorry, Antoine. I couldn't hear you over the sound of your perpetual poor attitude.
Oh, fucking got him! Dropping that first name shit.
God, I hope you die before me.
Which was from Katie Jensen. I fucking love that we're actually getting, like, we're actually learning the names of the characters. So we got Katie Jensen and Antoine Bitters. I know the others come later, but I just really like that we're slowly even learning the names of the characters, and I'll talk about that a bit more later on. So another thing that was actually informed to me after I uploaded this batch to YouTube, which was a little while ago, this wasn't even, like, I didn't pick up on it on my initial watch. I didn't pick up on it on my rewatch. Someone in the comments actually informed me that Monty's final line and contribution to Red vs. Blue was actually during this episode 17, of when the New Republic was heading into the city, and it's the soldier that mentions if Felix gave them bad intel.
Ma'am, you don't think Felix had bad intel, do you?
That was Monty, which is crazy. And at that time, he would have already been working on Ruby Volume 2. You know, obviously, he was pretty much the head of animation at Rooster Teeth, and most likely the lead animator. Not even mostly, he was the lead animator for Ruby Volume 1 and Volume 2, which is probably why they had a major shift in animation quality during this season, which I'll definitely talk about that as well in my overall opinions of the drop in quality, I should say. I think that's fair to say, especially after season 10 and season 9, for Christ's sake. But yeah, like, that was Monty's last contributions to Red versus Blue. You know, it's you know, it's always bittersweet to think about, you know, to know that his animation and his choreography and the things that he brought to life within this company, within this show, that paved the way for something like Ruby. It is finite, you know what I mean? And even with Ruby, eventually the well of inspiration, the well of references and ideas that Monty had are ultimately going to run dry, and it's really going to fall onto Miles and Carrie, who have been with him from the beginning, and Eddie and Kiersey, I like combine their names, Eddie and Kiersey, to kind of fulfill what's best for the show moving forward. You know, I don't think anyone can really say that Monty had everything figured out from the beginning, because it's impossible. You know, he passed away in Volume 2, which was in 2015, you know, following Volume 2, which is in 2015. And we're in 2021 going into Volume 9, for Christ's sake. So, I'm just really happy to know that, to know where he was introduced to the Red versus Blue universe, you know, being brought on by Rooster Teeth, and where that journey kind of reached its end point for him, unfortunately. But I'm really happy for that person told me that, because I didn't know, and had they not told me, I probably never would have known. So I'm really happy to know that. So episode 17, very straightforward. It was mostly the Reds and Blues coming to their decision, and then the Federalists, of course, and the New Republic kind of meeting ahead in the capital city. Episode 18 is where the meat and potatoes of the episode pops off, both with the shit going on in the city and shit going on like the freaking the freaking countryside, of course, or whatever, between the Reds, the Blues, the space pirates, and the mercenaries. And this is where like basically like the plot kind of reaches its climax. It's rising, it's climax, and it's falling in conclusion. So the first thing that I loved about this whole thing was, like, obviously Felix and Locus were at the radio jammer, the radio tower, and they were waiting for the Reds and Blues, and Felix notices like an extra member, and he's like, yeah, that's not gonna work twice, Carolina. Like, clearly you underestimated us. So she's pointing a gun at Felix is pointing a gun at her, and then you got Washington pointing a gun at Felix, and then Locus pointing a gun at Wash, and it just reminded me of that meme, like, trust nobody, not even yourself.
Well, I guess that's your problem.
Actually, if you don't tell your friends to come out and surrender, you're gonna have a problem the size of a golf ball in the middle of your forehead.
Funny. I was just about to tell you the same thing.
Oh, hey, Wash. Heads up, you're gonna feel like an asshole in 3, 2, and...
You continue to both surprise and disappoint me, Agent Washington.
Yeah, there it is.
And it's just ridiculous overall. It's just the fact of, like, bro, it's just a conga line of people, like, pointing guns at each other. I don't know. I just thought it was really, really funny. Obviously a very serious situation. While that's all going on, once they actually figure out, like, okay, what's gonna happen? Are you guys gonna take us on our offer? What's going on? I love the fact, and I was, like, hoping and praying during my reaction. I was like, please, Doyle, please, Vanessa, talk it out. Ramble to each other, you know what I mean? Like, don't be the people that shoots, like, do the anime 101. Dialogue first, combat next, you know? And they were just bickering back and forth, and the very moment, yeah, I think it was Doyle that was like, that's why you killed the Reds and Blues, and she's like, whoa, hold up, what are you talking about? And I'm like, there it is. So if one side says that they killed the other side killed the Reds, and they're like, we didn't kill them, you killed them, the obvious question is, why do we think that the other person killed them? And who told us that? And why? And why is there any confusion?
Of course not. You're still too busy trying to uphold a government that doesn't even exist anymore.
Because you've killed everyone who stood for it.
It was a broken fucking bureaucracy that nearly killed the planet.
And you're a ruthless lot of anarchists who killed the only outsiders brave enough to try and save it.
I would... Wait, what did you say?
When you murdered the Reds and Blues, was it because you couldn't stand the thought of them siding with us? Or were they merely caught up in the decimation of our outpost?
What are you talking about? We didn't decimate anything. You killed the Reds and Blues after they rescued their friends.
We did no such thing!
But Felix said...
Fortunately, the space pirates are there. You know, the shot heard around the world. All you gotta do is take a shot. No one's asking questions anymore. It's just all spray and pray and survival at that point. So I did appreciate the fact that, like, I liked that level of it because I really thought it was going to be the Reds and Blues future cubing into the middle of the fight with both sides going for each other and just trying to stop it. But even then, you still have the space pirates to worry about. So I do like how Vanessa and Doyle, like, I don't know why, but like they bickered. It's like that's like the best time for two people to bicker because otherwise they'd both be dead by now. The genius and the dog comment, I really liked that.
I've just gotta ask, what did you think 7 morons, a couple of freelancers, and an AI would actually be able to do here?
Well, not much. But you forgot to count the genius and the dog.
The dog.
Its signature detected.
Did that gun just fucking talk?
Firing main cannon.
I honestly think Caboose is a genius. I don't mean that sarcastically. I don't mean that ironically. His affinity with machinery is so fascinating. And it's crazy too, because when you look at Michael J. Caboose from the beginning of the series, he seems to be a very put together character, and his descent into the lovable idiot that we know now is a byproduct, I think, of a lot of things. I remember the shootout that was going on in his head between he had 3 AIs in his head. Think about that, right? He had Church, Texas, and O'Malley or Omega. Like that right there is like, think about Washington. He had the torture of an AI in his head, and that kind of fucked him up. You have 3 AI like fighting each other mentally inside of this guy who's never experienced that before, and Caboose turned out to be who he is now because of that. I wouldn't be surprised if he suffered like brain damage or anything like that because of something that went on like that during the Blood Gulch Chronicles days, and that was before we even really were able to put together anything like that. You know, that was before we knew that Church was the alpha, Tex was the beta, and Omega was the rage of the alpha. So again, the writing of that is just incredible. Caboose has always had an affinity for machines. Sheila, Epsilon when he was his little orb, Freckles, and it's just like he has a knack for these kind of things. It's I don't know why. It's just an affinity that is relative to him and him alone. I also think every friend he's ever made has like killed somebody, like firing main cannon, like Church as like the orb, laser-faced Pillman, like Sheila killed Church, killed the alpha, you know, firing main cannon, and now you got Freckles firing main cannon on the freaking space pirates. So I don't know, maybe he just likes people that have itchy trigger fingers. I don't know. But I just love that. I love that about Caboose. I love that he is a genius in his own right. He makes sense sometimes. It's weird when you hear it coming from him because for the most part, he's very simple-minded, if you will. And maybe it's that simplicity that makes him, you know, the smartest person in the room. In this instance, with Freckles putting the chip into his gun. I didn't even know that was fucking possible. I didn't even know you could put AI into machinery like his assault rifle, but that's still pretty cool. So I did like that comment from Washington, because like real talk, like people shit on Caboose. People are always like, Caboose, you're an idiot, you're dumb. Did Caboose really call someone an idiot? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's always easy to write off Caboose as like the idiot of the group, like the village idiot. But sometimes he definitely comes out on top, and this is definitely one of them. Really surprised me for sure. So with that master plan, Reds and Blues end up outsmarting the mercenaries, and then we get into this big ass face off. You got the Reds and Blues going up against the space pirates. You have the Reds and Blues going up against the space pirates. You got the mercenaries going up against the freelancers, and it's just like an all-out brawl. So you got the Reds and Blues going up against the space pirates, including like Emily Gray. She's like, the jugular, get him in the jugular, hit him in the goddamn throat, and like that was really funny.
Hey, suck it, Black! What? Just to clarify, that wasn't a race thing.
Come back here! Get him!
Ah!
Aim for the jugular!
Ow!
The jugular!
Ow!
Whack him in the goddamn throat!
Well, why didn't you just say so?
You got Washington and Carolina 2v2ing against the mercenaries, and I'll talk about that very briefly. My favorite part of that entire like pop-off moment was between Donut and Lopez.
God damn it, what's happening out there? Stick 'em up! Here's a...
Lopez! No!
I just thought that scene between them two was like super badass, like Lopez the heavy, like, I got no head, but I don't need a head to fuck you up. And then Donut is just like the biggest drama queen, like, Lopez, Lucas, no. Like, I'm just like, bro, relax. He's a robot. But I love Donut. I love how enthusiastically honest he is. I love how, I don't know, he is sometimes the comedic relief that I look forward to now. Especially when it comes to these moments in general. I want to talk about the animation of the fight sequences. So first off, Carolina got fucking bodied. 2v1. I feel like the coincidence was the fact that her leg was out of commission, and obviously they wrote that in so Carolina couldn't just like ace these freelancers like she would anybody else, especially since she went up against 100 Texas in the past and came out of that like a fucking champion. So here's the thing, right? I love this show a lot, and I've never shied away from like criticizing things about it that I liked and I didn't like. Like, for example, I mentioned that season 9 is half good and half bad because while yes, the capture unit emphasized a lot of Epsilon's inner developments with letting go of Texas and becoming a newer, better version of the director and of the alpha, everything that happened in the capture unit was useless. It was pointless. It didn't forward the plot. If it never happened, we'd be in the same predicament that we're in right now, albeit some different developments with Epsilon. Like I said, Epsilon and Texas, that was probably the biggest takeaway of anything that happened in the capture unit in general. So I'm not really afraid to say this, but it's very clear that the animation took a major dip when Monty shifted over to Ruby. It was very apparent when Texas came back into the picture. Like when she was reintroduced and she, you know, got the drop on Felix and Locus with the grenade and all that stuff. The animation was very stiff. It was very rough and clunky, and no offense to anyone that animated that, but it looked very amateur compared to what we have seen of the animation in the past. Even the subtle animations, like I feel like the actual animation of like the characters' movements and how they're just like walking and jogging in place, like any animation that's not combat looks very well done. It looks well animated. It looks very fluid and natural. I'm not going to bat an eye at the fact that obviously it's because of Monty, and I really think that Rooster Teeth kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit by being so all in on Monty as an animator, because unfortunately him dying meant that the quality of animation, the quality of choreography went with him. And when you look at Project Freelancer season 9 and Project Freelancer season 10, there you cannot argue that that's like world-class level animation, cinematography, fight choreography, and everything else in between. And you can definitely tell with Texas coming back, with Carolina coming back into the picture with Felix and Locus, and even during this, yes, it's passable, but it's very clear that like things aren't up to snuff or things aren't what they used to be. And I think that's one of the reasons why they didn't want to put Carolina in a like super serious, like I can handle these guys, I can take them scenario. I think from a plot standpoint, I wouldn't want to give Carolina the credit that Tucker has been building up and working towards. Tucker was really the reason why things worked out in their favor. So from a writing standpoint, I kind of understand why they gave Carolina a little bit of the backseat. Kind of made her look like a punk, like a chump, really, considering the fact that she's the #1. I don't know how long it's been since Project Freelancer. She's most likely a lot older and out of that prime state of her life. But I feel like even if her leg wasn't as bad as it was, I still think like they definitely nerfed her solely based on the fact that I don't think it was capable. I don't think anyone was capable of replicating what Monty produced when it came to like combat finesse. Like he was truly a one of a kind when it comes to the stylization, the flair, the spectacle of it all, camera motions and everything else. And obviously Ruby's gotten a lot better with that, I think, over the years. I don't know if Red versus Blue does, but looking from this perspective right now, it's very clear that when animation was ever on the table, they gave it to Monty, and they put so much of their chips in this guy. And I feel like that's why, you know, when we lost him, like, and I don't ever want to feel like I'm putting like the product of a show over the life of someone that we all cared about. I'm just looking at this from an objective standpoint. They put a lot of faith and they put a lot on this man to produce gold, and he did, you know. And I don't know if this was during Ruby development where You know, if he was working on Ruby, obviously he can't animate for Ruby and animate for RVB. But I don't know if they made these action sequences after he passed away. And even if not, obviously if he's working on a different show, the quality of the show that he was working on, it's going to take a noticeable hit as well. I still think it's passable. It's just noticeable to the point where I needed to address it. The way that they fell, like very stiff motion, like it's like you're falling and you're like frozen in time. You know what I mean? Like, and again, this is just a critique. This season's, there's nothing they can do to change this season or fix it. They're like on freaking something new with new people and stuff like that with RVB 0. But I still think as a general review assessment of the animation, it just tells me that Monty was their ace in the hole for animation. That's what they brought him on for. That's what made Ruby so enticing and popular with the trailers. That's what made a lot of the action sequences of Project Freelancer so captivating. It's what changed Red versus Blue forever with the warthog going through the wall and, you know, the animation of that. It definitely is something that I don't think it hasn't been reached yet. I don't know if it does get reached by the time RVB 0, because I know Torian was animating that, and he's really well versed in animation and choreography and stuff like that. So I have hope that RVB will improve in the action department. And Red vs. Blue has never been a show that needed the action to sell the show. On the contrary, I think the action elevated the already poignant story that was being told about the director, Allison, the freelancers, the AI, the reds and blues, and everything else. I think it needed that little bit of a push to kind of take it into the mainstream, which it ended up doing, which was great. Other than that, like I said, didn't mean to go on this big ramble about the animation. Like I said, it's passable, it's fine, but I'm comparing Red versus Blue to itself. I'm not comparing it to some other show that's doing it better. I'm comparing it to itself, and hopefully it improves over time. And if it does, that's great. I'll talk about it. And if it doesn't, that's great. I'll talk about it. So yeah, definitely just wanted to get that out of the way and mention that Carolina getting 2v1'd is pretty fucked up. In my opinion, I guess it still makes sense, kinda. I don't know how old she is, and I'm actually really happy because after I finish season 13, I'm going to be reading the Ultimate Fan... Hold on, let me grab it. So this was actually given to me as a Christmas gift like 4 or 5 years ago or something crazy like that. I think it was Christmas 2016 or Christmas 2017, but a buddy of mine ended up getting this for me at the, from the Rooster Teeth store, the Red vs. Blue Ultimate Fan Guide. I'm pretty sure for any of you guys that are watching this, you guys have probably already gone through this book in full. And it's actually written by Eddie Rivas, who's now a writer on Ruby, and Bernie Birds, the creator of, or one of the co-creators of Red vs. Blue, voice of Church, etc., etc. Bless him, he's no longer at Rooster Teeth anymore. I miss him dearly. But yeah, it talks about like everything, like character dossiers, the best quotes ever, alternate storylines, unexplored character arcs, spotlights, and a bunch of other stuff. Like this is like pretty much the end. Like I feel like there's a lot of information in this that I'm going to that's going to be brought to light. That's going to reinforce everything that I already know. But the reason I bring this up is because I don't know how old Carolina is. I don't know how old any of the characters are personally. I don't know how much time has passed between episode 1 of Blood Gulch Chronicles and where we are now in Chorus Trilogy. So I don't know if she's past her prime. I know that she's, grown up. Like we saw her younger character model as she was going into Aurora. Aurora? Is that the nightclub? I think that's the nightclub that she met York in. Yeah, Aurora. So we saw her in like a young adult, maybe like 18, 19 years old during that. We saw what she looked like during Project Freelancer, when her helmet came off and when, we actually saw what she looked like. I assume that she'd maybe be in her mid-20s around that time, maybe mid to late 20s. So now I'm just wondering like how much time has passed since Project Freelancer. Yeah, that was many years ago. So what, 5 years, 7 years? To where now she's kind of getting tossed by these, spry, new age mercenaries. They're kind of like freelancers in their own right. But yeah, like these new mercenaries, and she's kind of getting tossed. It's kind of like, damn, Carolina, what happened to you? Age has done you dirty. And again, I get it. She was stabbed in the leg. She wasn't on her A game. She wasn't able to utilize the equipment, the technology, the AI. Also, Epsilon wasn't with her this time around. He was with Tucker setting up for Felix. So I don't really know how old she is. I don't really know how much of it I can blame on the leg. I don't know how much of it I can pin on just the plot in general. They wanted this to be Tucker's moment, Tucker's spotlight, not Carolina saving the day from everybody and being the omega crazy badass bitch freelancer that we all know and love, that will never lose a fight ever in her life. So or maybe it can be a little bit of each one of those things. I actually think it's a little bit of each, but yeah, she got absolutely tossed by Felix and Locus. She got freaking German suplex. She got like knocked up on the building and just got completely laid the fuck out. And she did mention afterwards to Epsilon that she kind of underestimated them a little bit. So maybe, you know, that's her fault as well. But I wonder how much of it is due. Like, I don't know. I don't think, like, she's no spring chicken at this point. She's like a grown ass woman. So I just wonder how old she is. You know, if she's like pushing 30, I can kind of see like, okay, maybe she's kind of falling off a little bit. But I don't know. And I feel like this book might address the timeline of RVB. Maybe it'll give us direct ages of the characters, like the old freelancers that passed, like how old they were when they died, when Project Freelancer took place, when Blood Gulch Chronicles started, where we are now. I think this goes up to season 13, so I think after season 13 I can read it. And I'm probably going to do like a long-running Red versus Blue series of this before we jump into season 14. So if you guys want that, let me know. Let me know if this is worth checking out, if this is worth producing content, like talking about things that I discovered as over the course of my readings, and I'll definitely consider doing that. So following that clobbering, we got Washington versus Locus and Tucker versus Felix. So this next part, I do want to break down and talk a bit about Felix and Locus based on a tweet that I did mention regarding how I feel about them and giving like a baseline assessment of my thoughts of Felix and Locus before we jump into season 13. Because upon rewatching season 12, I said to myself, I'm like, I wonder if they are kind of dipping a little bit into the mental, not really mental health, but like the mental identity of Felix and Locus. I did mention that I kind of come to the conclusion that Felix is like a straight up psychopath, like, or rather he's psychopathic in nature, whereas Locus is sociopathic in nature. And this is not a diagnosis. I'm not a professional. I'm not giving like, I'm not saying, well, these two characters are displaying this behavior, so that makes them this. I don't think about that in terms of people in real life. These are fictional characters, and I want that to kind of be the precedent that I like. That's basically like the disclaimer that I'm putting here. I know that it's kind of weird to put that out there. I was also thinking about, some of you guys might know about this, but the Shane Dawson documentary on Jake Paul, of like, is he a sociopath? Is he not? Let's find out together. And some people consider that to be in poor taste because it's kind of like you really can't be the one to make that call, and you can't really make it a spectacle of like peering into his personal life, videotaping him, and coming to that conclusion on the internet of all places. But that's kind of like the mindset. That's the idea that I had, because I remember that I did watch that documentary at the time, and they did mention like, well, what's the difference between a psychopath and a sociopath? And I actually started doing some research, and I was like, holy fuck. I don't know if Felix, I'm sorry. I said Felix in reference to Miles. I don't know if wow, I can't believe I did that. I don't know if Miles had that in mind when writing Felix. Like, I want this just narcissistic, superficial, manipulative, psychopathic, killing monster to just be the driving force of one of these two like partners in crime. Locus is I kind of, honestly, I kind of just default to sociopath with Locus because I really don't think I can put him in a box the same way I can put, like, Felix is easily definable. And I know that, like, I still don't know a lot about them. I still feel like there's more to tell. Their backs are against the wall more than ever going into season 13. So maybe we'll find out who they truly are. Maybe their true colors will come to light even more so than they already have, especially since, Locus left Washington alive. It says a lot about who he is and how he differentiates a lot from Felix. But like I said, I'm not a professional. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist or any of those mental field practice professionals. This is not a diagnosis. This is a baseline assessment analysis of a character in a fictional show. So just take that for what it's worth. So I do want to talk about Felix and his psychopathic tendencies. So I did pull up a chart that kind of gives you some baseline traits of what defines a psychopath, what defines a sociopath. So I'm going to give you the trait, and then I will put a clip corresponding with that in my opinion, or from my perspective, coincides with the belief that I have that Felix is psychopathic in nature, while Locus may be sociopathic in nature. So the first trait is psychopaths lack guilt, remorse, empathy, and pretend to feel emotions.
What happened? Oh, I'll tell you what happened. Captain Tucker here decided to disobey orders and took it upon himself to recover a hard drive full of Federal Army secrets. A decision that only cost him the lives of 2 of his men. That's a pretty damn good trait if I do say so myself. What? Man, you should have seen this guy. He was all, I don't play by the rules. Fucking James Bonding and shit all over the place. It was crazy. Wait, I thought you were pissed. Oh, do not get me wrong. I wanted to beat your worthless skull into the ground until it was paste. But look where we are now. You took a risk, and it paid off.
Paid off? Dude, 2 of our guys are dead.
And 2 more will probably die tomorrow. Seriously, what don't you people get about that?
That's enough, Felix.
Just saying.
What do you want?
Just wanted to see how you were doing.
How am I doing? How do you think I'm doing? I put all of our hope into the hands of a bunch of strangers, and they run off and get themselves killed.
It was a leap of faith. Sometimes you fall.
Well, we're falling fast. I believed in them.
And they believed in us.
What are you talking about? They left us.
Kimball, they accomplished their mission. They actually managed to rescue their friends, and they were going to come back. I saw it myself. They wanted to end this war. They wanted peace for Chorus.
Well, what good does that do us now?
Plenty. If you go back up there and you tell those men that their heroes died fighting for them, then you can turn this tragedy into something more. Turn it into fuel for one last fire.
Felix, they're mourning.
When they should be fighting. Vanessa, how many people have we lost at this point? Do you think you'd even count? The only thing different about these soldiers is that they inspired us. And I'm telling you, they can still inspire us even though they're gone.
Transfer that data over to my personal computer. Then let's get a meeting together in the war room.
You got it, boss.
And Felix? Thank you. For everything.
I'm just doing my job.
The second is inability to form true emotional attachments with others.
Felix?
No. I've had to put up with these morons every day, so you let me have this. Now, if it were up to me, I'd just nuke this place from orbit. But our employer has other ideas. If an entire planet dies overnight, well, people ask questions. But if you stumble onto this rock and find that the settlers killed each other, well, that's just a tragedy.
This one is very self-defining, but psychopaths tend to be successful and can blend in with everyday people and kind of live a somewhat normal life on the outside.
While we're talking business, if you guys are serious about rescuing your friends by the end of the week, I could always be persuaded to increase my level of assistance. For a one-time fee, of course. Maybe something along the lines of an alien energy sword? Any takers? Tucker?
I don't think so. If you like the New Republic so much, how come you still charge them for your help?
Because when I retire, I want a television the size of a billboard.
I'm just saying, you could always help us out for free. You know, mix it up a little.
Okay, so you want me to help you rescue your friends because... what? It's the right thing to do?
Yeah, it's called not being a dick.
You know, if I recall, the first time these people ever asked you for help, you turned them down. Figured this whole Civil War thing wasn't your problem. In fact, I bet if your friends had never been captured, you'd still refuse to lend them a hand, even if it was the right thing to do. Everyone has their price. I learned that a long time ago. And you're no exception.
They're dishonest. Go figure.
Dirty liar!
Hey, whoa. I never actually lied to you idiots, okay? Well, except for once. You're some of the galaxy's greatest soldiers. Now that couldn't be farther from the truth. But you know, it did make you the perfect candidates to lead the people of Chorus.
And I think the final nail in the coffin, like, without a fucking doubt, this is, like, definitively, like, Felix has to be a psychopath. They are manipulative, narcissistic, and superficial.
Vanessa? Oh, she was easy. I just made up some story about how you all died heroically. You should have seen it, man. I gave the performance of a fucking lifetime. Got all broken up, threw in a few dramatic pauses, and they just ate it up. God, I just really want to savor this, you know? Once the feds and rebels kill each other, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I mean, we've been playing these guys for years. How do you just walk away from something like that?
What happened to retirement?
Oh, well, yeah, I'll be filthy stinking rich, but I'm still in my prime. There's so much more I could do. You still don't get it, do you? The entire reason you sim troopers were allowed to live this long? It's because you're all losers. Control was confident that you'd do more damage to these people than they could ever do to themselves. I mean, a bunch of idiots in charge of an army? Come on, it was a recipe for disaster. Locus and I figured we'd let you rack up the casualty count, then kill you after a few weeks. Oh, but then, you did something special. You gave these people hope. And with that came a new level of motivation. To fight harder, to die faster, all with the belief that their sacrifice might actually mean something. But you know what? It all means nothing. At the end of the day, if I'm stronger than you, and if I'm faster than you, then I can kill you. And that's better than anything money can buy.
I don't know, man. I think I'd rather be rich than a fucking nut job. What do you think, Church? Yeah, this guy's got no idea what he's talking about.
I'm 99.9% sure that's the route that they're going with for Felix. He doesn't give a shit about anybody. He cares about being the best. He cares about winning. He cares about talking shit. He's very emotional and he's very hot-headed. He lets his emotions run rampant, and that's why he's kind of 2 for 2 on fucking up Control's plans, both with killing the Reds and Blues before Carolina was able to save them. He was monologuing too much. He was stroking that ego, and Felix even and Locus even mentioned it. And then again now, like, Malcolm Hargrove has been exposed as well because of Felix. It's kind of shitty, and I will talk about some implications that can come from that because of Felix's fuck-ups 2 for 2 now. Now, I can't figure out Locus. Like, I almost don't even want to put him in a sociopathic perspective because he seems to lack a conscience or a moral compass of some sort. Because, you know, him going back and forth with Washington, it gives off the impression that he sees reality in one way, and he separates what it means to be a soldier from what it means to be a person, when in reality, you can't have one without the other. You know what I mean? And Washington is a living, breathing example of that. Carolina is a living, breathing example of what it means to be someone who follows orders and says, fuck emotions, fuck friendships, fuck, morality, or, feeling like you did something wrong. It's, I complete my mission. I was just following orders. But then, if you are a soldier, like a true soldier, a true soldier, someone that wants to fight the good fight, who wants to defend people, who wants to live a life of honor and protect people and uphold the law, you have to be human. You have to kind of look at things from a human level. You know, Washington and Carolina at some point realized that they were the bad guys. They were doing fucked up things. It's like what Carolina said to Epsilon. They may never get back to good, but if you wake up every day and you fucking do the best you can, you'll find out that it's good enough, you know? And that's something that I'm wondering, why is Locus trying so hard to convince Washington of that what he's doing is just not justified, but is valid. You know what I mean? It's almost like he has a warped perception of how things are. And I know the saying goes like war changes people. Like I'm not going to dispute that at all. I've never been in war. I don't know what that's like. I don't want to underplay that at all, especially from cuz that shit happens in real life too. But like Felix and Locus, Vanessa said that Felix and Locus were good at what they did. They fought together in the Great War. They killed tons of people. They worked together. And when it was time for when the war was over, some people returned to civilian life, and some people like them couldn't. They were too far gone. Pandora's box was open, if you will. I don't think Felix would ever be able to go back to a normal life, if he even had a normal life, because he cares too much about the money, about the glamour, about the hunt, you know, the thrill of the kill, the thrill of the hunt. And you can't really acclimate back to like a normal life after something like that, after you go through something like that. And for Locus, it seems like he changed in some ways too after the war. I'd have to assume. But from the sociopathic side of things, you know, he's a professional. He gets the job done. He sees himself as a tool, and he lacks conscience and a moral compass for the most part. And just one more thing before we jump forward to like the rest of episode 18 and then into episode 19. I realized that like Locus is very much like a yes man. He mentions like, I complete my mission. You tell me to do something, I'll do it. He almost lacks agency in a way. And it's weird that like he answers to control, because control seems to have control of him. Doyle wasn't even able to tell Locus what to do. You know, he answers to a higher power. He answers to someone that's going to pay his rent, pay his, you know, write that check or whatever the case might be. And I don't know. I even from this analysis, even from this assessment that I made, it's very baseline. I don't even feel like I know who these characters are. I feel like Felix is kind of an open book, but there's so much more to Locus, and it mainly stems from how he treats Washington. Like, he seems to have some level of honor, some level of, like, he has like a code that he lives by. If that's how I should mention it. He has like a sort of code, and he's unable to break that code from someone like Wash, who I feel like reminds him a lot of himself. You know, I mentioned it before, but like that one scene where like Washington is having like memories of how he used to be, and it's like, you know, I was just following orders, and you know, and Felix is I think it was the first episode of season 12 or I think it was the first episode of season 12 when that happens, like you get that, or the first batch or something like that. It was during the time where like it was like a mental episode that Wash was having while he was unconscious. And like I was like, dude, they're like the same, but one of them changed and one of them didn't. You know what I mean? Like one of them found redemption and the other one kind of believed his own lies or something. So I am hoping and praying that we learn more about Felix and Locus now that their backs are against the wall. Now that, you know, I assume, you know, it's a trilogy. It's a finale trilogy, season 13. I assume a lot of things are going to be tied up in a nice bow and put to rest. Whether Felix, Locus, and Malcolm Hargrove get arrested, or whether they're killed, I feel like we're going to kind of get a definitive conclusion to things. And it's kind of weird to think about that too. Sorry for rambling, by the way, but I'm just kind of like free thinking at this point. I'm kind of like going off the script here, but like Malcolm Hargrove is integrated into Project Freelancer. And with the exception of Carolina and Washington, everything that Project Freelancer touches dies. The AI die, the freelancers die. And like now that Malcolm Hargrove is a part of that too, like everything that he touches by proxy is infected. So I feel like he'll die. I feel like Felix will die. I feel like Locus will die, because they're like villains, right? Like I almost feel like jail is kind of like mercy to them compared to the things that they were about to do. Like all three of them, just fucking get rid of them. And everything else in between too. Like we never found out what happened to the counselor. I'm wondering if they're gonna address or even talk about that, because Phyllis got salvaged, for fuck's sake. You know what I mean? I feel like that's the same Phyllis, but salvaged, and we'll talk about that during the end credit scene. But like, I feel like the only way to put Project Freelancer to bed and to never open Pandora's box of going back to that plot point is if everything regarding it is gone. With the exception of Washington and Carolina, of course, because they are the saving they're what survived. And even Epsilon I'm scared of, because he's been glitching out a lot. He glitched out in the first batch of episodes, and he glitched out again back during season 9, I think. No, I think it was season 10. He glitched out when he went through like York's files with Delta, and then he glitched out again recently during season 12. So I'm like, is he reaching the ending, like the lifespan of an AI? Granted, he's a fragment, so that might be even shorter. But I don't know. There's so much more to kind of unravel with this last season. I feel like it's going to be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to it overall. And we have more stuff to talk about, so let's keep things going. So I want to talk about Felix really quick. I wrote here, 3 strikes and you're out. And the reason I say that is because Felix is the reason why the Reds and Blues made it out alive. If he kept his mouth shut, you know, and like I'm a little annoyed by this too, because it's like, bro, you've had, like, you really just wanted that extra little bit of dialogue, didn't you? That extra monologue to stroke your ego. And then Carolina came through and saved the day. And now you've exposed the planet of Chorus, undid years of work, put Malcolm Hargrove in danger of being apprehended if word gets out beyond this planet. And it's kind of like, okay, well, that's strike 2. I will not be surprised if Malcolm Hargrove orders someone like Locus to kill Felix if this happens again. And the reason I say that is because of this scene right here.
This is unacceptable, Locus. I thought you told me you only worked with reliable partners.
I do. The individual in charge of that outpost has been eliminated. I saw to the matter personally.
I'm not paying you to put bullets through the heads of space pirates. I'm paying you to ensure the acquisition of my property. And when I lose my property, you lose your payment.
So, like, another thing, too, you got to think about is, like, Locus has, like, a code that he lives by. He doesn't fail his missions. You know what I mean? Like, he follows orders, he completes his mission through to the end, and when a mission isn't complete or when something goes wrong, when someone fucks up my mission, I'm gonna fuck them up. But the problem is, it's your right-hand man. He's 2 for 2 now. What the fuck is going on with Felix, and who's going to put a muzzle on this kid's mouth to keep him from going off the deep end and fucking up everything that the antagonist built up? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I want that to happen, but in letting the villains be villains and letting their plans flourish, you ultimately get a richer story. You're actually able to see how where the chips fall, and it's enthralling, you know? And it's like, I now have to think in my head now, okay, going into season 13, how's Felix gonna fuck this up again? You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I'm not saying it's frustrating or anything, but it's like, he's 2 for 2. Locus doesn't seem upset by it. I feel like maybe they will now, because now it's like, okay, now you really fucked up, and him and Locus just teleported out of there. I'm so surprised that Malcolm Hargrove is so well composed. He's like, it's fine, as long as they don't get word out to the rest of the world or the rest of the galaxy. We're like, it's still contained on the planet. The planet knows, so it's going to make the job a lot harder, because now they have to, like, it's not going to be as easy as letting these two sides kill each other. But alas, it is Felix's fault, and the jig is up. I will say, though, this scene right here was one of the, I don't know why, I don't know if it was the scene, I don't know if it was like the animation of Locus, but this was like my favorite scene of this episode.
They're injured. We can kill them now.
No. We follow orders. Let me assure you all, this is not over.
I don't know why. I just think it's because, like, Locus just looked like a badass doing that. And, you know, it's like, oh, shit, he actually had a future cube on him. Holy shit, they actually were prepared. So, yeah, Locus and Felix kind of got bamboozled again. Shout the fuck out to Tucker and to Epsilon for that absolute play of just, like, letting Felix run his mouth, talk about everything that he wanted to, reveal his entire plans. Anime 101, dude. Like, that shit bit you in the ass. The villain's monologuing for too damn long. And I just love how that kind of worked out. It just showcased, again, Tucker's intuition, his ability to think on the fly. And, yeah, he also suffered a little bit of some battle scars. You know, he got stabbed and stuff like that. And then Epsilon was able to come through and help out and all that. It was just a well-executed plan. something that I wasn't expecting to go off as well as it did. But then again, you can never really underestimate the Reds and Blues. Like I said, whether it's with the meta or whether it's with 100 Texas and Project Freelancer or Control and, you know, the people, you know, and the space pirates and the mercenaries of Chorus, like, they have shown up time and time again. They've delivered, they've improved, and they're nowhere near the type of people that they were in Blood Gulch. And it's just so humbling. It's just so heartwarming to see that these are characters that feel like people, and they feel like they've evolved their relationships with each other, their own personal, you know, growth that we've seen throughout the show. You know, Tucker is still like kind of like a womanizer, but he kind of like has a little bit more respect for the craft of being a leader after seeing Washington do it, after seeing Church and Epsilon do it. You know, and now he's in the driver's seat of that. I love the camaraderie and like the banter and just the, I don't know, just like the general relationships of characters like Simon and Griff. They kind of feel like brothers at this point. They always have, but they kind of feel more like family than ever. I don't know. I'm kind of just getting all sentimental now, but like, I really don't know where the show is going to go from season 13. But I hope that the Reds and Blues are still able to kind of evolve and grow and maintain who they are, as the show goes on, but only time will tell. And so the last episode we have is episode 19, the finale episode of season 12. And this episode was primarily focused on kind of like the aftermath of everything that happened, rebuilding Chorus, figuring out where civilians and soldiers are going to live and be stationed and all that stuff. Basically rebuilding the planet, having a temporary truce between the Federalists and the Republic, because they're basically one and the same. You know, it kind of reminds me of the old days of Red versus Blue, of like, Reds and Blues are the same, you know what I mean? Like, the Reds and the Blues were kind of pitted against each other for arbitrary reasons, when in reality, after a certain while, it's kind of like, well, we're one and the same. We're just wearing different shades of colors, you know? So that's really great. I'm really happy to know that we actually have all of the recruit characters' official names throughout the episodes, as well as the credits. So we have Katie Jensen, Antoine Bitters, John Elizabeth Andersmith, which is a little extra, honestly, and with less fanfare, unfortunately, but Palomo's full name is Charles Palomo, and that was credited in the credits. So I actually went through the credits. Another funny thing too is like that whole bit with Sarge wanting a promotion to outrank Griff, which was super fucking funny. I saw that shit coming from a mile away in my reaction. He's also credited in the credits as Colonel Sarge, which is hilarious as well. But yeah, that whole thing with like Griff outranking Sarge, then Sarge outranking Griff solely to outrank him, was really funny. So before we get into the whole Control reveal that I completely called for like the last couple of years since like season 9, I was really confused about this scene here.
Looks like Karen and the military started getting really buddy-buddy around the time that... Oh.
Epsilon?
Where's Dr. Gray?
Huh?
The lunatic, what's she doing?
It's so weird that like the delivery from Church and like the entire moment kind of felt like, wait a minute, the doctor is the mastermind behind everything? That really caught me out in my reaction, and upon rewatching it, I was like, why did Church say that with such like alertness and like desperation in his voice? As if like the doctor has been someone that's duped everybody, you know what I mean? And like, I would have believed that, because it's kind of like, you know, she's crazy enough to kind of pull some shit like that. She's definitely smart enough. I don't know, like that scene just kind of threw me off in general. It's kind of like, where's the doctor? Tell her to round up everybody, blah, 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 blah. I have to make a call. And I'm like, oh, that's it? I like the way you said that made it seem like she was about to freaking blow up the entire planet. But yeah, so Control was revealed, and for some reason, a lot of people were surprised that I called this, as if I haven't been calling it since season 9, since the first time I saw the mug of Charon Industries when South Dakota shot that one guard because she wouldn't set her goddamn trackers that North kept telling her to do over and over and over again. I obviously didn't like say to myself, oh yeah, years from now, this is going to come back to bite us in season 12 of Chorus Trilogy, where Malcolm Hargrove is both UNSC Oversight Subcommittee Chairperson and CEO of Charon Industries. But what I meant is, like, I have been keeping tabs on Charon Industries since season 9. It's never been addressed. They lightly teased it during like the whole situation with the insurrectionists, with Pillman and CT, that she was a traitor. And then it kind of like after Project Freelancer, after, you know, the director was brought to justice and all that stuff, didn't hear about Malcolm Hargrove again, didn't hear about Charon Industries again, didn't hear about any other insurrectionists. And it's kind of like, that's weird. They kind of just tossed that aside as if it never happened. And then it reinforced in my head because we heard Malcolm Hargrove again for the first time during season 9, I believe, with CT joining the insurrectionists while like Florida and Wyoming were like scoping them out in the water, you know, at like the insurrectionist base.
To the director of Project Freelancer, Dr. Leonard Church. Dear Director, allow me to introduce myself. I am a representative of the newly formed UNSC Oversight Subcommittee. Our organization is charged with the protection of high-level assets of the military, one of which recently went missing. These assets are entrusted to our programs as a privilege, not as a right. As such, they will be safeguarded with the utmost care. In these dark times, mankind has the opportunity not only to prove his humanity, but to earn it.
Well, the third craft this afternoon. Let's see who else is arriving.
I look forward to a long and mutually beneficial relationship for our two departments. Yours truly, Malcolm Hargrove, Assistant to the Oversight Subcommittee Chairperson.
And I was like, how apropos would that be if during season 6, the big reveal after everything is said and done is that the former director of Project Freelancer is Dr. Leonard Church, who the Alpha was based on. I'm like, holy shit, we have half of the picture.
I just got word from our new command. They said that thanks to our brave efforts in bringing Project Freelancer to justice, we can have full use of these former bases to continue our training exercises until such time as they need them for more official purposes. Whatever the hell that means.
Wow, that's great news, sir.
We even got a shiny new Jeep, courtesy of the UNSC.
Yeah, but Sarge, what the hell is, shotgun, by the way?
Shotgun? Fuck!
What the hell's the UNSC?
I don't know. Never heard of it. Sounds made up.
I know that you disagreed with my methods and that others will as well. This is beyond my control. However, I cannot imagine that any court would be able to convict me, no matter how low their opinion of my actions might be. You must understand one basic fact for all this to make sense, my dear Chairman. These AI, they all come from somewhere. They are all based on a person. Our Alpha was no exception. And while the law has many penalties for the atrocities we inflict on others, there are no punishments for the terrors that we inflict on ourselves. So you send your men. They won't find themselves a fight. They'll only find an old man tired, but satisfied he did his duty. An old man weary from a mind more filled with memory than it is with hope.
Okay. Time to see if this works.
Sincerely yours, the former director of Project Freelancer, Dr. Leonard Church.
We have half of the picture because who was the director arguing with? The chairperson of the UNSC. So it's like, okay, we have the identity of who the director is, Dr. Leonard Church. Who is this council person? Who are they? Then during that memo of CT and Pillman, we found out that it was, Malcolm Hargrove. At the time, he was the assistant, got promoted to the actual chairperson. But I found it was very interesting that they had Malcolm Hargrove's first memo to the director during a scene with the insurrectionists who were of the staff of Charon. So in my head, I was like, how apropos would that be if that is like a subtle reference, red herring, whatever you want to call it, of things to come? And ever since, I was like, where's Charon Industries? Where's Malcolm Hargrove? We get season 11. As season 12 starts gearing up, we start seeing the space pirates with Charon tech. And I'm like, The only thing they haven't addressed to us yet is Malcolm Hargrove. So it had to be him. It had to be, because he was something that was just left off along with Charon Industries, and we were just supposed to like if you weren't if you weren't in the fucking gym, if you weren't labbing and doing homework, it's easy to obviously like overlook. And I guarantee you, if I wasn't doing shit like this, I would have overlooked it too. But I'm so like over analytical of everything that maybe I rob myself of like a genuine reaction, you know, finding that shit out like in real time. But at the same time, I'm like so fucking validated that's its own reaction. That's its own excitement for me. It's like, oh my God, finally. I've been calling this shit for God knows how long, and now I finally can say it. Malcolm Hargrove is the CEO of Charon Industries. Fuck yes.
Colorful Space Marines, stop corruption. You know, I really love the picture they used for this thing, but I gotta say, I think I like the description even more. Pictured above, the red and blue troopers of Project Freelancer receive a full pardon from UNSC Oversight Chairman and Charon Industries CEO, Malcolm Hargrove. I can't imagine you like publicizing that second bit very much, though. Probably not very good for business. Am I right, Chairman?
On the contrary, you'd be surprised as to what can come of a merger between politics and corporations. If you're here to negotiate a surrender, I'm afraid I must inform you that your ship has set sail. Quite literally, in fact.
UNSC Oversight Subcommittee Chairperson and CEO of Charon Industries, Malcolm Hargrove. I am so fucking pissed. I'm pissed off. I'm pissed off because this motherfucker had the audacity to play the moral high ground of season 6 during the entire back and forth memorandums to the director of fighting for your humanity. Not like protocol isn't like protocol is doctrine. We have to uphold it. No cutting corners in this business, mister. Meanwhile, I don't know how long Malcolm Hargrove has been playing both sides, you know? And it's very clear for someone who's in the political world and the corporate world, right? He says, you know, you'll be surprised of what can come of a merger between politics and corporation. And he just seems like a very corrupt, evil businessman that's just looking for his next big venture. And he found it in a planet that he can house alien tech. He can flip that tech for profit. And he can just kind of do it outside of protocol and regulations of the galaxy because it's on the outskirts. No one's paying attention to it. It's kind of this hidden gem. And he says to himself, if I play my cards right, if I like make these things happen coincidentally, crash this ship that has all my UNSC tech and give it to the space pirates, there's no way they can trace that back to me. Meanwhile, I pay these 2 mercenaries, go to this planet, kill everyone there, and then we just kind of I get what I want, the mercenaries get what they want, and then we wipe our hands clean, and no one's ever gonna know about this kind of like, you know, this tucked away planet on the edge of the galaxy. But I will definitely be the one to put the pressure on the director for... See, here's the thing, right? And I literally put here, Dear Director, because I fucking love how Epsilon started that out. He was like, you busted. This is the declaration of war to you and your punk-ass freelancers and space, your mercenaries, your space pirates, whoever the hell you're going to bring our way. You know? He's got space pirates, he's got mercenaries, he's got his UNSC resources, money. He can influence a lot of people to take part in this war to get the things that he wants. And I felt so validated for the director because I love that there's a semblance of him still pissing off and still being a thorn in the UNSC side. The thing about it is, Leonard Church and Malcolm Hargrove have no moral ground to stand on. They took advantage of people. They did things for their personal benefits. But the difference in this case is that I can understand from a human level why the director did what he did and why he became so far gone. why he turned the AI into torture machines, why he turned the freelancers into, you know, basically like all competition to each other, where they started like destroying each other from the inside out. The goal was Allison. It's a very human, a very like you don't have to agree with what he did. You can even hate what he did, but you can understand at a human level that too much love is too much of anything is a good thing. And in his case, it was love. He loved his wife too much. He himself was unable to say goodbye. And it turned him and everything around him into something that should have never happened in the first place. And it's tragic. It's a tragic love story at the end of the day. Not to romanticize it or anything. But I can't look at anything that Malcolm Hargrove does and say to myself, yeah, I can understand why you're doing this. At a human level, like, all I see is greed, corruption, profit, all of the mumbo-jumbo bullshit that I fucking hate from modern-day capitalism is him. And maybe I'm generalizing. Maybe there is this tragic backstory of the UNSC. But, like, when you're playing the CEO of Charon and the UNSC Oversight Subcommittee chairperson, and all of these things kind of link back to you, you know what you're doing. You're not doing it because of a deceased loved one. You're not doing it for a love lost that you're trying desperately to get back. At the very least, I can agree, and I can say, like, what the director did was selfish, but also understandable. I can't say that I wouldn't do the same thing if I loved someone that much that I felt like I couldn't be without them, you know? And I hate how, the reason I hate this is because the director really, like, got, like, he was being kicked while he was down. He was getting badgered, and yes, he broke protocols, he broke the rules, but the only reason that the fucking counselor has any ground to stand on is because the director got caught, but he didn't. Until now. And this scene here of, like, Leonard, like, fucking sticking it to him, Epsilon sticking it to him, reminds me of that one scene with, like, Ghost Tex and Ghost Church, and they're talking about, like, they've basically transcended who they are. They've transcended Allison and Leonard, they've transcended Church in Texas, and, like, now it's kind of like Epsilon is carrying the torch of everything that has happened in the past. He's righting the wrong. He's truly better than the director in every way, shape, and form. And he's basically kind of like returning the favor to Leonard, which is basically an older version of himself. He's like, Leonard, you may have lost this battle, but I'm gonna fucking win this war for both of us. And it's like, that shit's so fucking awesome. And I really hope, I don't know about Malcolm, but I don't think he's a savory dude at all. I'll be honest. I just think he's a fucking a corrupt business tycoon who just sees an easy come up, and he's like, a few million lives? Fuck it. But I'll fucking badger this guy because he tortured a version of himself to create AI to try to A, contribute in the war, and B, try to bring his deceased wife back in some way, shape, or form. I don't know. That shit really pissed me off. Like, I was so, like, when I rewatched this for the review and for, like, continuing, I was like, I'm so fucking happy that, like, Malcolm has been exposed, because I can't wait to see what he has to say for himself. I can't wait to see how things end off for him, and I can't wait to hopefully get some type of closure for all of the stuff that's happened that goes way beyond, you know, the Reds and Blues, that goes all the way back to the past of Project Freelancer that all started because Allison died. So yeah, in a nutshell, that is episode 17, 18, and 19, but we still have the end credits. What the fuck was that end credit scene?
Phyllis?
Yes, Chairman.
Please clear my schedule for the rest of the day.
Yes, Chairman.
And, Phyllis, could you verify that Locus's delivery was sent to the trophy room?
The crate from the shipwreck was unloaded and delivered this morning, sir.
Wonderful. I could use a bit of good news today.
So I said this in my reaction, but I really need to, like, ask this again. I don't want you guys to answer. I'm just asking as just a formality, but is that the same Phyllis? Like, The director told Phyllis to destroy all files, including herself, and he was going to off himself in that room with no life support with Carolina's gun.
Play it again, Phyllis.
Beginning playback.
Thank you, Phyllis. Now I would like you to erase all our files except for this one.
All our files? Does that include me, Director?
It has been a pleasure working with you, Phyllis. I am sorry.
And you as well, Director.
And before you do, please shut down all the facility systems as well. Take everything offline.
Director, this is a sealed facility. If I shut down all the systems, life support would not...
Thank you, Phyllis. Shut them all down. Lock me in.
All right. Was the project a success? Did you find what you were looking for?
No, I did not. But I believe I might have come very close. I wish I knew.
I see.
And don't worry, you'll see me again.
Perhaps the next time around.
It has been an honor, sir.
Don't say goodbye. I hate goodbyes.
And she says, you know, did you find what you were looking for? No, I didn't. You know, maybe the next time around. And she's like, it's been an honor, sir. And that's the last we heard of them. All of a sudden, Phyllis, yes, Chairman, like, dead, gone. I don't know if that's a salvaged version, like, because I remember, I think it was season 6. I remember them saying that the reason why they stored Epsilon in a capture unit is because it's cheaper to store an AI than it is to destroy one.
You were encrypted until you could be recovered.
Recovery carries risk. Destruction ensures that an AI...
It costs a lot of money, okay? It's cheaper to recover you than it is to delete you.
When they removed Epsilon from me, he was unraveling, casting off all his thoughts. I was sure they deleted him, but it's cheaper to store it than it is to delete it, right?
Right.
And depending on how quick the UNSC was knocking on Leonard Church's door, how soon after Leonard killed himself, did the UNSC swoop in and try to salvage any type of tech? Maybe she didn't do it fast enough. Maybe they got like a truncated or like a corrupt version and reverse engineered it. But I really do think that that's Phyllis. Project Freelancer Phyllis, Sheila Phyllis. Like, it just seems like, again, there are products of Project Freelancer that are still, like, the products of, like, the past of Project Freelancer are still here. You know, I'm expecting to see the Counselor as a returning face. We got Phyllis. We got the, you know, it would be crazy if we got the Counselor. We got the fucking Meta's helmet. Maine's helmet. A scene that I kind of called. I don't remember when I called it, but I remember mentioning that the end of season 8 was like when they got the Epsilon capture unit, you got all those fucking soldiers that are there, all the ships and the freaking tanks and the foot soldiers. I'm like, bro, they're gonna want that capture unit and they're gonna want the assets of like whatever Maine had, all of Maine's armor abilities, Texas, etc. They had to have gone into the ocean off of that cliff and get Maine's corpse, which they got, ended up putting it on this ship, and somehow, some way, over the course of that time, that stuff was just on the ship, and then it got sent over to Chorus, where it all just kind of like crash landed, all that stuff. We also saw the crate. I think we saw that crate, because we do see a crate that is next. I think it's the one that was next to Washington when he was making, what's his name? When he was making Caboose's helmet. There was like a crate, and it kind of looked like the camera was like zooming in on it a little bit. I don't know if it was when Washington was making the helmet or when the gang, like one side of them went into the ship and they ended up seeing that giant like mech. I don't remember when, but I do specifically remember a crate being focused on. And then they kind of just moved on to something else. So I wonder if that too is subtle foreshadowing that, wow, Maine's fucking shit was actually there. And another thing you got to think about was that they also mentioned like the Griff shot, that apparently it got confiscated from Griff, and that was like, oh, the first time he ever cried or whatever. And I wonder if that's the reason. If they got not just the helmet, but they got the helmet, the armor, and the Griff shot to kind of put together the main meta ensemble, and it's going into a fucking trophy room. Like, Main never even got a chance for anything. He became a fucking husk, a shell of his former self. The meta, the freaking Sigma's plaything. It's gonna go in a trophy room, so what? The fucking, so what? So Malcolm Hargrove can fucking pat himself on the back and stroke his ego like, ah, yes, this is my technology. The same technology I used to bring down, you know, Project Freelancer and turn everything against them because he got caught and I didn't. And I'm gonna look at this and I'm gonna reminisce and feel good about myself. It's so disgusting. I fucking hated that, man. Especially hearing Phyllis and just being like, fuck, dude. Even if she's an AI, I feel bad. You know, I feel bad. I mean, not even AI. These AI feel just as real as, like, they might as well be fucking metastability. It might as well be metastability at work, because if I'm able to feel emotions for an AI being tortured, I should be able to be, like, I can easily feel bad for someone like Phyllis, who's just been nothing but helpful, optimistic, and awesome since we've gotten introduced to her as Sheila back in the day, you know? But yeah, there's a lot of Project Freelancer baggage going into Season 13. The past is coming back to bite a little bit of everybody. I don't know how anyone's going to react if they realize that Phyllis, or a part of Phyllis, is still alive, but now is in, you know, Karan Industries' hands. I don't know how Washington is going to feel about relinking back up with Malcolm Hargrove after everything that Malcolm put him and the meta through with, you know, going after Epsilon. I don't know how Carolina is going to feel about potentially seeing Main's armor again if they ever reach this trophy room, because apparently she's having bad dreams, and it might be about Sigma and the meta killing her, and like the last moments that she had or saw of them at all, you know, back during Project Freelancer. And another thing too that crosses my mind, Malcolm was so gung-ho about using the meta and using Washington to get Epsilon. And now Epsilon is kind of like, he might be at risk. He might be another trophy to put in the trophy room of Malcolm Hargrove, or maybe, you know, because he's an asset of the UNSC, so technically they have jurisdiction to get Epsilon back, and they never got Epsilon. I guess they thought it was in that defunct capture unit, but then he got out. And now that Epsilon has made himself present, maybe maybe you know, maybe, I keep wanting to call him the counselor, but maybe Malcolm, and that's another thing too, I got to get used to saying his name because now he's finally revealed. Maybe Malcolm will try to go after Epsilon now because he never got that chance in the past. I feel like now the only other person that we need to see is the counselor. Like, we never found out about what happened to him after, like, it's kind of like everybody abandoned the director, or maybe the director was just like, yeah, get out of here, go do your own thing. Or maybe the UNSC apprehended him, you know what I mean? Because it's like, well, you're an accessory to what the director did, so maybe he got arrested, and maybe we'll see that. That actually makes more sense. I actually believe it if the counselor just got arrested and the director just offed himself. And, you know, I would expect that a little bit more. But yeah, now we have Season 13. Another thing that I put here was Felix and Locus development, hopefully. I just wonder if there's going to be any type of driving wedge between Felix and Locus, if they're still going to be dynamic duo, if they're still going to try to stick with this plan, or they can get the fuck out of there if they want to. They're mercenaries. They're not really tied down to anyone, and I feel like they have enough money where they can just kind of live comfortably regardless. Fuck, they could probably do more damage to Malcolm than Malcolm can do to them because they know the truth. But then again, Malcolm probably has more pull on the space pirates, and I don't know if Felix and Locus can deal with all of them. So maybe they are stuck between a rock and a hard place now. But with their backs against the wall, usually that's when, like, you really kind of find out the true colors of characters, because these two have been kind of smooth sailing. They've been coasting since the start of this trilogy, because they haven't been figured out. They haven't been thwarted yet. And, you know, overall, I feel like things might develop if the tides are shifted more in, you know, the planet Chorus's favor, especially with how things progress with, you know, Tucker maybe, you know, pushing Felix's buttons, Felix kind of getting lost in his emotions, or maybe Washington maybe getting through to Locus. I think that'd be interesting as well. But yeah, overall, that is episode 17, 18, and 19. I think overall for the season, this was a very solid. I think it was better than season 11 for sure. In terms of just general plot forwarding and everything else, season 11 was very Red versus Blue Blood Gulch Chronicles vibes. The plot really didn't forward unless Felix or Locus were involved in season 11. Other than that, it was mainly just shenanigans, especially with like Freckles and stuff like that. It didn't really pick up until towards the end of season 11. I think the last batch mostly. But this one, you kind of knew what they were fighting for. The plot twist of Felix and Locus's betrayal of the Feds and the Republic really kind of amped things up, pretty much upped the ante. Carolina and Epsilon coming back into the picture really kind of forwarded things and made things a lot of, like, very, very exciting. Even the first, like, the startup of this season was it was like a rough start for the Reds and Blues, right? That, they were trying to train and get to the level that they can go and rescue their leaders from the Federalist side. We got the new characters, Jensen, Bitters, Palomo, Andersmith. And we had like kind of like a new dynamic, like a Red versus Blue 2.0 of the recruits being spitting images of their leaders, which was great. Tucker was getting like baby steps into what it meant to be a leader, making calls that got people killed, making new decisions that were reinforced by old decisions that he had learned from, like, just pulling out the data and having them instant teleport because he knows because he has the experience of what happened last time. He spent too long getting data, and it got a couple of people killed on his watch. Felix and Locus's backstory, and again, the reveal of their betrayal was really big on kind of pushing the plot of like it was a big plot twist, but then like the new plot at that point was just trying to make their plans known and get both sides of the Federalists and the Republic to kind of put aside their differences and work towards a common threat. And I was kind of eating it up the entire way. Another thing that I will say, and I've mentioned this in earlier batches of this reaction batches, I love the sprinkled animation. It's been ever present from the very beginning. It's not overstayed. I love the mix and match between machinima and actual animation. I think it kind of makes scenes pop a little bit more. It's a lot more pleasing on the eyes. It's far more appreciated, and you're actually able to kind of pick up on it instead of it overstaying its welcome. Obviously, the animation when it comes to fight choreography and action, obviously they had to shift from Monty, which means that, quality overall is going to dip. You can't really do much about that. You got to have to just expect it. But at the same time, they made it work for what they needed it to do, and I'm pretty sure it's going to get better over time, so I'm not going to harp on that for too long. We got the Federalist side of things, which was great too, because for the most part, we only ever got the Republic side of things, at least from Felix's perspective for season 11. So seeing both sides of the story was great. Getting introduced to Doyle and Emily Gray was great. Hearing characters that I'm familiar with the voice talent, like Gray, Aaron Zeck, Barbara Dunkelman was awesome as well. And probably my most favorite part of the entire season is Carolina, Epsilon, and then all of the Epsilon variants of the AI that we missed, that we know and love. Theta, Delta, Gamma, Gamma, Omega, even Sigma had a little bit of a showcase. Eta and Iota, the twins, very, very brief, but they were there nonetheless. I loved all of that. And obviously we also had some sibling rivalry between Epsilon and Carolina, and we had a little bit of some bromance and reconciliation between Tucker and Church after he was gone for so long. And like I said, Tucker has been in the driver's seat this entire season in terms of leadership development, in terms of growing as a person, growing as a character. And I'm expecting Tucker to be kind of solidified as a character by the end of the Chorus trilogy. So, I've loved the ride so far. I'm really looking forward to seeing where it goes now. I hope the people of Chorus make it out alive. I hope the Reds and Blues make it out alive. I'm expecting some losses, because up until this point, even we've had a lot of close calls. Even Freckles managed to be salvaged and survived somehow. But yeah, I generally feel like this season's going to be a fucking roller coaster. I haven't been spoiled on anything, but people are obviously being very playful with their excitement. They're like, you're not ready for season 13. You're gonna love it. I can't wait for your reactions. And to an extent, that's probably like they're excited to kind of relive that through my experience and see how I interpret it and how I review and break things down and all that stuff, which I'm excited about. The batches have all been kind of curated for me, which is great. So I'm going to be starting, I believe, with episodes 1 through 4 is going to be, I think, the starting batch for me for, I think it's almost like 30 minutes or something like that. So it's just going to be a lot to kind of take in terms of hitting the ground running and just seeing where things leave us with, or how things start up, I should say, with the Chorus trilogy. But that is everything. Those are all of my notes. Those are all of my thoughts, my assessments, my analyses of Red vs. Blue Season 12, a much improved addition to the trilogy. Miles is a great writer when it comes to Red vs. Blue. Not to say he's not a great writer with Ruby. Like, let's not spread any type of rumors, but like, I kind of apply Ruby and Red vs. Blue differently. I don't see them as similar products. I don't see them as similar in terms of writing quality either. I feel more grounded when I watch Red vs. Blue because it's in the realm of like realistic science fiction, which is more of my wheelhouse of enjoyment in terms of fiction compared to like high fantasy with like magic and gods and stuff like that. Ruby is a show that I love dearly. Don't get me wrong. It's just like, I've always been a fan of like science fiction and like Halo and Mass Effect and stuff like that. Like, and obviously Red vs. Blue is kind of like a spin-off of Halo, not the other way around, despite what people might joke about. But yeah, like that's always been my appeal has been like science and space and the stars and technology and all that shit. That's why Mass Effect's like one of my favorite trilogies of gaming. And despite me getting into Halo the way that I did, I've always been fascinated by the Halo lore, like the rings, Master Chief, and all that other stuff. But yeah, like Red vs. Blue is definitely a wheelhouse of understanding that like it has Halo in there, that has like the last 12 seasons of Red vs. Blue in there. And I can definitely see how Miles would gauge that and how he would be how he's in tune with telling that story, especially since I think Bernie was still around to kind of help guide him through like the trilogy as well. Like obviously Miles was writing it, but you know, Bernie was still there to kind of consult and to kind of talk to and stuff like that in terms of understanding where things wanted to go. And I think Miles did a great job. I think Locus and Felix are some of the most like fascinating villains that I've ever seen in a show. The writing has been fantastic. It's been consistent with the personality traits of the characters, what they would say, how they would react, and things of that nature. Some things that Griff says like off the cuff, like, I'm gonna go ahead and call bullshit on that. Like, that's just so Jeff. That's so Griff. I fucking love that. And I don't know. Like, I just love how timeless Red vs. Blue is. This show came out fucking like 15 years ago. And it's timeless. It's so fucking good. I can't wait till I have kids, and hopefully they enjoy the same things that I enjoy, because I'd love to have them watch Red vs. Blue, and then I'm doing reactions with my kids. I want my girlfriend to watch RVB, because I think she'd like it, because she kind of started with RVB 0, and she kind of left a bad taste in her mouth, so I feel like if she was reinforced more on how Red vs. Blue originated, from like Blood Gulch, and the Recollection trilogy, Project Freelancer, Chorus, and everything, it would probably be a bit more of a smoother experience for her instead of just trying to apply and figure out everything 18 seasons in, or however long RVB 0 is at this point. But overall, I love the show. I know this is going to be like a farewell and a goodbye to a lot of people who probably stopped watching Red vs. Blue after Season 13. I guarantee you there's a lot of people who stopped watching my reactions after Season 10 because there's so many different points where people just got off the train and just was like, this is my stop. And all I can really say is that I appreciate all of you guys for whenever you guys got into my content, despite my hiatuses, despite my long, drawn-out droughts of content. I don't think I would change anything, because I've never sat down to record a reaction or to record a review like this and ever regret it. I've never said to myself, damn it, I'm not feeling it, or damn it, I have to do this, I have no choice, people are going to be upset with me. I know that my methods haven't been the most haven't been like justified. Like, obviously, like, nobody who wants to be successful has to like just be like, yeah, I don't feel like being successful today, we'll try in a few weeks, you know. And I've definitely struggled in the last 2 years with COVID. I've struggled personally with a lot of things, both in my relationship, in my personal life, just in my professional life, like with streaming and content creation. It's really tested me as a person, and has, I don't know, I feel like I've been changed a lot from being stuck in my house and having like just feeling like a shell of my former self, because I never used to be like this. I always used to be like a grinder. I've always used to like put out videos, record constantly, and I always had a sense of pride in the shit that I was doing, whether it was Ruby or Red versus Blue. And you know, I feel like I've let some people down. I feel like over time there have been things that I've promised that I've under-delivered, or I haven't delivered at all, and it makes me feel really bad. And I know that like season 13 is where most people are going to hang up their hats. I know season 14 is a trilogy. I know seasons 15 through 17 is an anthology. I know RVB 0, I believe, is after that, and I know they have something else worked on. I think they have like a spinoff for RVB 0 right now, and then they're going to have RVB 0 like the continuation season after that. I think that's next year or the year after. I don't know. But yeah, I'm still planning on sticking around for RVB. I'm going to be genuine about my reactions and my experience. I'm going to be honest about my criticism and my reviews. If I like something, I'm going to let you know. If I dislike something, I'm going to let you know, and I'm going to explain why. And I just hope at the end of the day, you guys vibe with the content still. You guys still enjoy, you know, anything that I put out in terms of whether you're here for Ruby, whether you're here for Red versus Blue, or you're more of like a Twitch viewer and you enjoy the gaming content. I'm just trying my absolute best to try to maintain and to try to not fuck up everything that I've built up. And I have a lot of goodwill that I need to rebuild up with the community and with the content. So that's kind of all I want to say overall. Like, yeah, this review is all done and capped out. The next video that you guys will be getting, most likely through early access as well, is going to be my first batch of reactions for Red vs. Blue Season 13. Very excited to see how this wraps up. I don't know what kind of person I'm going to be at the end of it, because if it's anything like RVB, if it's anything like the end of Project Freelancer, I'm going to be a fucking mess. I don't even want to talk about that, like that reaction, like that. I literally, like, I lost a part of myself at the end of Season 10. It was, without a doubt, like one of the most heartbreaking experiences I've ever gone through in any form of media. You know, I think that is very synonymous with like my Persona 5 Royal playthrough, of just being so attached to a story and an experience, and it just brings out the most human emotions in me. And I don't know how Season 13 is going to fare. I might need a little bit of time for that as well, but I'm excited for it all around. But with all that said, I definitely want to say thank you guys all so much for those of you who do watch these reactions in full. Lord knows how long this is. It's probably like 2 hours or something crazy like that after editing. But I really do appreciate it. I really hope you guys are excited. I hope this wasn't all over the place. I feel pretty rusty for the most part. This is like the first review that I'm reviewing since Lord knows how long. You know, I had to freaking pull out my old notebook to just learn how to take notes again. So that's an indication of how long it's been for me. But ultimately, I really hope you guys enjoyed this but ultimately, I hope you guys really enjoyed this review. I hope you enjoyed all my thoughts, my theories, my speculations, what I'm looking forward to for Season 13, and my overall excitement for it. Like I said, reactions should be coming down the pipeline following this video as well. So check out Patreon, or just, you know, be patient, and they'll eventually come out weekly, probably a week from the time this video's out. But yeah, that's everything. Thank you guys for the support on YouTube. Thank you for the support on Patreon. Thank you guys for your kindness, your generosity, your patience more than anything. And I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care.